Ladies and gentlemen, my next speaker that I would like to bring to you folks, over $1 billion in sales driven by online marketing and branding, A-list celebrity partners, award-winning patented inventor, runs the largest entrepreneur summer program in Arizona for undeserved high school juniors. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Josh Elizetxe!
Chambea, ala, cabrones no te quedan balas. Chambea, ala, cabrones no te quedan balas. Yo siempre picheo, enrolo otra vez. Siempre picheo, enrolo otra vez. Siempre picheo, enrolo otra vez. Yo siempre picheo. Dímelo, parcero. Siempre con la sed y no somos salseros. Ya sos salsero.
How are we feeling? Excellent. Well, I'm going to start off by saying I have nothing to sell you. Is that okay? Yes. Cool. Okay, so we can continue. I have nothing to sell you, but today I'm going to share with you something that we've been exploiting recently that has helped our companies grow faster than ever before. Is it fine if I share that with you guys? Yes. Okay. Excellent. Well, first, what I'd like to do is I'd like you guys to get to know me a little bit more. Is that okay? Yes. Awesome. So the title of my presentation is called Building Influential Brands. I played around with the different titles and tried to come up with, something that was more catchy, but I realized that if you want to really build success as an entrepreneur, you have to figure out how to build a brand. And so you may have been hearing from other speakers about how to build your personal brand. I think that is first and foremost the most important brand, of course. But second to that, building an influential brand is so powerful. And it's allowed me to not only create tremendous wealth, but it's also allowed me to influence tens of millions of people. And so when I thought about brands that I look up to, they have a lot of influence. When I think of people that I look up to, they have a lot of influence. So what I'm going to show you today is a way to fast track, a way to buy time. I love to figure out ways to buy time. Because that's one thing, no matter how much money you have, aside from your health, time is gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so as opposed to spending 50 years to build a brand, I'm going to show you how to shorten that time cycle and how to hijack influence in days, minutes, hours instead of decades. Sound good? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I have a holding company, and I've got 6 different brands within that holding company. And we're in multiple different industries: health, beauty, finance. You heard from one of my business partners, Anthony Sarandria, yesterday in our financial business. And we've got over 5 million social media followers in today's world. It's incredible how impactful social media has become. And so what we figured out how to hijack or really how to piggyback off of platforms. So instead of building the next Facebook, I'm more concerned about what is the next Facebook. And so for me, I'm always thinking about how can I utilize the existing network effects that are out there. And so the network effect is simply when a platform, generally a platform in today's age, reaches a tipping point in which it's almost impossible for competitors to ever catch up. Some examples of this include Uber, right? Facebook, clearly. That's why monopolistic companies generally are those examples. Google. And so I remember reading the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and he says the best way to identify a monopoly is because people that actually have a monopoly will never admit it. They kind of, for example, Google changed their name to Alphabet so that they can shine light on the various projects that they're doing, and they're doing incredible work. But at the end of the day, Google makes an overwhelming majority of their profit from one thing, Google search engine. And that's why they give things away for free. Sitting back there, I heard a theme today as well as yesterday of people giving things away for free. And that's okay, but I also like to make money, and I think it's okay to make money. And if you can figure out how to do both, that's key. And so Google's figured out how to give away Google Chrome, Google Analytics, Google Maps for free, and they're taking all that data and selling it back to advertisers. And so if you point a light at a monopoly, they shine it, they deflect it. Where people that don't have a monopoly will often say they do have a monopoly, they are the best, right? So anyway, that's kind of a side tangent. I wanted to mention that because it's important. I'll circle back to it, I promise. So one thing that's very important to me, aside from running very successful brands and teams, is the work that we do in the community. So, growing up in a very financially humble upbringing, and really rising from that, and only in America where this is possible, I realized that I wanted to find an opportunity to give back as soon as I could. And so I'm a trustee of the Fleischer Scholars Program. It's a summer program at Arizona State University, and we're at, ASU, Sun Devils? There we go. Awesome, let's go. So the program is for socioeconomically disadvantaged high school students, juniors particularly, who show an interest in business. We take them on campus. They stay in the dorm rooms there on campus. We're now at Washington University in St. Louis, University of Arkansas, and we just signed a partnership with the Thurgood Marshall Fund to continue to grow this program. So we take students that have a lot of ambition, have faced adversity and have overcome adversity and continue to overcome adversity, but lack a proper role model in their community to strive to and kind of model after. So we bring them onto the campus, show them that university is not that scary. I'm the first to graduate college in my family, and so I find that very important. So that's something I like to spend. I have as much fun doing social entrepreneurship as I do destroying competitors and negotiating in the boardroom. I promise. I'm a lot nicer when I'm working with the kids, though. So I'm sometimes. I'm a lifelong student, so I am constantly consuming. I call it just-in-time information. In this day and age, we're bombarded with articles. 7 tips to grow your business tomorrow. 14 ways to do this, this, and that. 6 ways to lose weight by tomorrow. So we have so much information constantly being thrown at us. And so what I realize is that the most intelligent and most successful people in the world have a very, very dialed in, calibrated prioritization filter. So they're understanding, and I'm going to give you the hack. The hack is simply, do I need this? Will I use it in the next month to 3 months? Otherwise, shelve it, right? You can save the link. If you're like me, I have, at any given time, I have at least 50 tabs open on every device. Raise your hand if that sounds like you. There we go. Okay, great. All right, I thought I was going to be the only one. I was going to be embarrassed up here. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Well, that's not your fault. It's because we have. First of all, you're here, so obviously you're intellectually curious, you want to learn, and you're growth-minded. So that's fantastic. And so if you're like me, sometimes your tabs disappear all of a sudden, or like the Chrome thing crashes and my heart hurts, and it's like, I'm sad. It's like I lost a loved one. And then it's like, there's always like, even though you had 50 tabs up there and you probably, like 45 of them weren't that really useful, there was that one and you're like, what was it? You're like, maybe I'll come across it. And so anyway, I'll give you a quick hack on that kind of helped me with my hoarding of tabs. It's called, it's true. There's a bunch of Google Chrome extensions that help you save all those tabs, and so I started using those. But then I get anxiety because I save them all, and then I feel like I'm never going to get back to them. So anyway, I can go on for this for days. It's important, though. This is important. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you want to cut the time, you have to be very selective on what you're using. So what I learned this from Marcus Friend. Marcus Friend founded a website called Plenty of Fish. You don't have to raise your hand if you've been on there. I don't need to know that. So Plenty of Fish was created by one guy, an incredibly talented programmer, Canadian programmer, Marcus Friend, and for the first 5, 6, 7 years, it was just him and his wife working on the site. She was the customer support department, and he automated everything else. And he sold that company 2 years ago to another company called Match.com. He sold that for $575 million cash. He owned 100% of the business, and had probably $100 million in his Bank of America account by the time he sold it, because he realized that in this day and age, you don't have to raise a bunch of money and hope to make money one day. If you create a product that's good enough, people will pay you for that. And if you continue to grow that, another company will pay you for the value that you've created. And so what I recognized, and this is key, what I recognized is that I went through and I studied as many of the merger and acquisition reports that I could get. So for $8.95, HBR.org, Harvard Business Review, sells case studies. So, I didn't get the chance to go to Harvard. And so what I found out, though, is I went to a day at Harvard with their admissions department. I got to sit in a few of the classes. And I recognized that they teach based on the case study model. So they're constantly teaching different case studies. And I think that that's probably the best way that I learn, because I can see kind of the mistakes a company made, the exact situation. And so usually when I'm on the toilet, I like to read through a Harvard Business Review case study. And I probably shouldn't be spending that much time on the toilet, but some of them are really good. So I recommend. I'm sharing a little too much with you guys. This is too much. I got to dial it back. More? Okay, more. So I love, no, jokes aside, I really do read them on the toilet, but I read them outside the toilet as well. But I read these Harvard Business Review case studies, and for $8, I get a collection and aggregation of sometimes years and years of compilated data and analysis from some of the smartest professors in the world. So I'm constantly looking for sources of the best information and data, so that's key. And what I found by pouring through those different case studies is that when an acquiring company makes an acquisition, what are the multipliers in how much a company pays for that? Okay, well, it comes down to one word, and it's the word is goodwill. And goodwill is an accounting. Any accountants in the room by chance? Wow, all right, there we go. So I had to learn all this stuff. I didn't really enjoy accounting classes in school, but I had to learn this stuff because I realized that there's a multiplier, and there's a hidden spot when a company's acquiring another, where they kind of stuff in sometimes billions of dollars for goodwill. And that could mean a lot of things, but generally it means brand equity, brand value. So a company may only make X amount of millions of dollars and still sell for 50 times multiple. And some will say that doesn't make any financial sense. It's because the brand value is so key. You look at brands like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, you look at these high-end luxury brands, you look at Mercedes-Benz, and you recognize that their name speaks volumes. And this has an effect on the personal level as well. You look at Elon Musk and what he's able to do to drive the share prices of his company. He's got to be one of the best spin-up artists you can imagine. Jeff Bezos is right next to him. Jeff Bezos has been able to run that company without running a profit for so long because he's figured out how to spin up the public to always be waiting for the next thing. There was another guy that I was a big fan of called Steve Jobs, and he was really good at spinning up products and always on to the next thing. And so I recognize that the best entrepreneurs are really the best communicators. But going back to my point about mergers and acquisitions, I'm going to show you whether you make $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, whatever your business level's at, you have the opportunity to exit that business. And so I always recommend to entrepreneurs to build something that's sellable. It doesn't mean that you have to sell it. Okay? So build something that's sellable. And oftentimes that means extensions of your personal brand, like Tony Robbins does. Tony Robbins has multiple companies that are spin-offs of his personal brand. He lends his brand equity, his goodwill, to other brands. There's another guy that does this called Richard Branson. He uses the Virgin name to lend his own name. In fact, our current president, Donald Trump, used that to generate hundreds of millions of dollars by lending his name in a licensing way. So all that to go back to the importance of, if you're going to build something of value, first of all, if you're an entrepreneur, you should be building something of value regardless. If you're going to be building something, you should build it to be big. And here's why. And I was given this exact presentation in a university classroom, and someone raised their hand. It said, that's greedy, that's selfish. Entrepreneurs are selfish because they want to build big things so they can make lots of money and all of this, greed, greed, greed. And I said, I beg to differ. I would actually argue the contrary. I think that if you don't build your business to make a lot of money and create lots of opportunity, you are selfish. Dude, what do you say? What do we say? Let me explain because you're going to go back and you're going to be like, you're going to share this, and I want to make sure you have the backup because they will come back at you. Especially, I was in the university class, and right away, like the whole crowd started to turn on me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to figure this out." So they started to turn on me, like, "What do you mean?" And so I said, "Hear me out. If you build a business to be a lifestyle business, and you make $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $300,000 a year, whatever various levels of lifestyle you're aiming toward, you're creating opportunity for yourself. You're generally going to pay the highest tax rate, and I think that that kind of middle gets really squeezed, and so you don't create enough opportunity, you don't make enough money to create enough jobs to give opportunities to others. You simply have created a high-paying job for yourself. So I always think, how can you create something bigger? And I watched on YouTube probably 100 different videos of self-made billionaires, everything I could find, and something came back. Two thoughts came back. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, both were taken backstage aside from each other, and they asked, "What's one word that you could give advice to entrepreneurs, etc.?" And they both said one word: focus. And that was key. That was a catalytic movement for moment for me as an entrepreneur, because I realized that I was trying to do too much at once, and I recognized that and we all try to do a lot of things at once. But what I ask you, I have nothing to sell you. I simply ask you to think bigger. So the second thing was think bigger. So Mark Zuckerberg said it. So think bigger, focus. That's it. If you've got persistence and grit, you will always succeed. Not being a complete idiot sometimes helps, but I have a couple friends that are complete idiots, and they're very successful. I love them to death, and I won't name names because they're amazing. But with that being said, you want to think about, what are you currently doing right now? What's working? And one of my mentors always says, "Josh, follow the money. The market will tell you what they want. So whatever's making you money right now, see how big you can scale that. Think bigger." So instead of thinking limitations of, well, I don't have enough money to do this stuff. What I'm going to show you today, I spend millions and millions of dollars on this stuff now, but we started doing it simply for free. And so there's really no excuse. And the timing is actually better than ever, because we've reached a network effect in what I'm going to talk about, which is called influencer marketing. And influencer marketing actually has been around for thousands of years. Because if I'm someone who's influential in the village, I'm the village doctor, and you come to me and you say, "I have an ailment, I have an earache, I have a toothache," and I recommend something to you, you're probably going to regard that, you're going to take that to a very high regard, and you're probably going to implement what I recommend to you. So that's simply a recommendation, aka word of mouth. I ask business owners all the time, I said, "What are you doing for marketing and advertising?" And they say, "Oh, I'm trying all this other stuff, but my number one source is word of mouth." I said, "That's fantastic. That means you're doing a good job. That means people like what you're doing. But what if I told you you could scale word of mouth?" And they look at me and they say, "How can I scale word of mouth? That means I have to do more work, or I have to get more clients." I said, you can hijack that. What I mean by that is, if I go to the village doctor, okay, let's go back 1,000 years, why not? And I go, and I've got some cinnamon bark that I put together in my hut, and I'm gonna bring it over, and I'm going to educate the village doctor on why my cinnamon bark is the perfect solution for people with toothaches. And I'm going to explain that. And I'm going to get the doctor sold on it. What's going to happen next time someone comes with a toothache to the doctor? They're going to recommend my product. I just made a salesperson, right? So I just cloned myself. That's simply what I did. The trick there is to make sure that you've got the WIFM. What's in it for me? What's in it for the doctor? Well, hopefully they have it in their best interest to recommend things that are going to help their patients. As we can see, and I'm not going to make this a political discussion at all, because I do not speak politics, but if you look at the opioid crisis and you look at what has been recommended by people we trust, our village doctors, oftentimes they recommend things that aren't actually the best solutions for us. But they do it, I'm going to say, most of them do it without wanting to do any harm. They were simply educated and trained by very sophisticated sales forces from large pharmaceutical companies to recommend these products as solutions to their patients. So, I'm going to take that back because I don't want to get into a negative train of thought. We're talking about how can we do this in a positive way? How can we get people talking about our products, our services, recommending them to their loyal fans? What if you could go village to village, talking to the doctors, getting them sold on that, and all of a sudden you create a network effect. I'm going to show you how to create your own network effect with whatever you're doing, but I ask you, the only thing I'm going to ask of you is to think bigger. And anytime you think you're being greedy or selfish, recognize that the more opportunity you create, the more that you're actually giving. Okay? So I want you to really internalize that, because for a while, growing up without money, I had a big dose of the imposter syndrome. I felt like, oh, I'm just, I'm not smart enough because I come from a poor neighborhood, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not this enough, that enough, this enough. And I realized that we're all simply big kids, and we're all the same, and anyone can do it. And after reading 100 self-made stories, I recognized that I was much more like these self-made billionaires than I was of the image I was depicting of myself in my head, a limiting image. So think bigger, focus. Okay? You only need to do 2 or 3 things. This is from Marcus Finn, the Plenty of Fish guy. You only need to do 2 or 3 things a year that will actually move the needle on your business. And most of the time they're free. Other times you have to pay to get access to a better watering hole, right? Sometimes you have to pay money to invest in yourself to come get curated information. Right? What AWOL has presented to you here is a smorgasbord of curated content. Here's another personal thing. Is it fine if I share one more embarrassing personal thing? Just one more. So, how many of you guys have a Costco membership card? It's incredible. So I love it because I go to Costco and I have on my Google Calendar, I'm only allowed to go to Costco once a month. I can't help myself. You go in there and it's an emporium of goods and stuff, and they have samples there, and it's like the food court, $1.99 for a juicy slice of pizza and 40 cents for a Diet Coke, and I feel like I'm on top of the world when I'm shopping at Costco. But what they've done is that they've curated interesting wares and products. And because we lend our trust, they lend their trust to the products, so we trust that they're picking good products for us. Here's my thought process when I go to Costco. Maybe some of you guys would connect with this. And this lends itself to influencer marketing, because we're being influenced by Costco and what they've built. So I go in and you see something and you're like, oh my gosh, especially when it's on sale. Because Costco normally has good deals regardless, but when it's on sale, it's like, this is a really good deal. And so here's my train of thought. I walk through the aisles, and I look at something, and I said, "Wow, that's interesting." And I walk over to it, and I grab it, and I'm playing with it, and as soon as I like it, in my mind, my logic kicks in, and my logic says, "How could I use this? Or do I need this? You know, it's like, I have 6 Ninja blenders already. But I don't have one in my office. It's $99, and it comes with all this stuff. And anyway, and that's my thought process. So I'll go in, for deodorant, and I walk out with a TV. I'm like, 12 Ninja blenders. I'm like, they're good gifts. Worst case scenario, I can gift them, right? That goes in my head, right? So I'm walking out of this huge thing, and it's just me, and I'm like, the one thing I came for. So that I don't look like a complete fool, and consumerism's got me, I have to stop at CVS or Walgreens on the way home to buy a toothbrush. This happened to me the other week. I didn't know Costco didn't sell hand sanitizer, at least the ones I went to. I tried looking for hand sanitizer like Purell. I don't know why they don't carry that. But anyway, that happened to me. I went for hand sanitizer for the office and came back with 100 things, and I realized I didn't get the hand sanitizer, so I run back, and they say, we don't carry hand sanitizer. I'm like, perfect, that's my excuse. They didn't have it, they don't carry it. Okay, so before I get carried on, I can tell stories all day, but so just really quick, I'll go through. I taught myself programming at a public library. That's right. And the reason why is because we didn't have a computer at home. We couldn't really afford one. And at the time, in the neighborhood I was growing up in, there were some gang activity. They were recruiting gangs and all that. And I was 6 feet at like 5 years old. So I was like the ideal, football player, like 6 feet. Here's this young kid. If you're recruiting for a gang, recruit me. I was like, perfect. Throw him in the front. So my parents decided that I should either spend time in sports. I played football and track and field. Or I should spend time at the library to kind of shield me from that while they were working. So I was at the public library and enjoying myself there, playing video games like any other teenager. I was 12, 13 years old. And one day there was a contest that the library created. And so you read books and you take a reading comprehensive test. You get points. You cash in the points for baseball tickets and all these different things. And immediately my competitive my competition just kicked in, my competitive nature. And I said, how can I fast track my way to winning this game? And I realized that reference books, the boring books, had the highest score. And then I went to the reference section and I found a book called Web Design for Dummies, Programming for Dummies, all these For Dummies books. How many of us have read a For Dummies book? There we go. A lot of dummies in here. That series of books is responsible for millions and millions of dollars of my personal success. So, for $10, well, it was free at the library, but for $10 you can gather wealth. For $9 from Harvard, you can gather a wealth of information. But I learned how to do that. I'm reading these books, and I'm getting all these points. And even the librarian is kind of perplexed on how I'm able to accumulate so many points. And I later on shared my strategy. But as I'm reading these books, just probably like how you guys are sitting here, you're absorbing this information. There's an overwhelming surplus of tools you can use, ideas, tactics. It's so much to consume. It's curated, just like Costco stuff, but you want to be very selective of what you're going to implement over the next 3 to 6 months. That's what I recommend. But this book, I'm reading through these books, and after a while, I'm like, this sounds easier. This sounds easy. Like I'm reading through them just to get points. Lots of pictures in them, so I felt like I figured out a hack. Really low reading level and lots of pictures. I'm like, awesome, and I get 20 points a book instead of 2. So I'm reading through these books, and all of a sudden, through osmosis, I start to subconsciously build self-confidence in myself to actually build websites. So I decided, I've got computers here. All my friends are playing video games. Why don't I try something like this? And it was then that I realized, as I started to figure that out, it was then that I realized I enjoyed building games for others to enjoy than I enjoyed playing them myself. And I think we all kind of have that moment, that epiphany, that paradigm shift in our mind where we recognize that we like to create things, whether it's services, right? Create value. We create value. And we have that desire to create more of it. We truly are the backbone of America's economy, and we truly are the backbone of innovation. That's who we are. And so I realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur at that point. I had no idea what entrepreneur was. All I knew is that I enjoyed building websites, and I enjoyed sharing them with my friends. So one day a teacher finds out at high school, and I was a freshman in high school, and a teacher finds out that I'm building these websites and says, well, I have a friend that needs a website. Could you help out? I said, sure. I said, how much would you charge for that? Blank face. You charge for these things? And so I went to Google, who's become my best friend, and who became my best friend very quickly, and how much do people charge for a website? And I think I charged $200, I don't know, something like that. And then he's like, okay, $200, okay, like, it's cool, it's done. How long is it gonna take? And so I was like, well, I've got time this weekend. Once I get my homework done, I got some practice Saturday morning, but I could probably do it Saturday, probably have it done Sunday. Like, everyone else has been saying 6 months and thousands of dollars, and you're gonna do it for $200 this weekend? Okay, kid, let's see what you got. So I went home, and I went home, started to study to figure out how to build this website. And so after a while, I started building websites for people, started as a service, and was able to buy my own computer. First, we had to buy I remember going to Fry's Electronics and buying the tower, or whatever, the PC component first, because I couldn't afford both at the same time. So I bought the PC component, and then I bought the big Sony monitor, and I flipped over one of my mom's clothing bins and used it as a desk, flipped over the wastebasket and used it for my mouse. And I told my dad, why don't we split the Cox internet bill, because we didn't have internet at the time. And I had started to make enough money that I felt confident in doing that. And so that was my very first office desk, work from home job. And I realized that I was no longer tied to the 2 hours that I could spend at the library working on these websites. I now had infinite time outside of school. And so I just had one promise I had to make my parents, and that was, because I wanted to be a doctor, and there was I'm the youngest sibling, and it's like all the pressure's on you. You've got to do this. You're smart. You can do this. And so I was so embarrassed to come home the day that I recognized I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was terrified to bring that up because of the amount of risk and all of that. Right? I'm sure we've all faced that situation where people around us who mean it out of love, but it ultimately becomes a false concern. And for me, that's very hard. The closer they are to you, the more impactful it is. But when we know we're right, we persevere. We're stubborn. That's what we are. And so I persevered, and so started building these websites. And I had a client come to me one day and said, Josh, you build these beautiful websites. You're a great programmer. You're a great designer. I was learning everything I could. Photoshop, how do I do that? I can't afford Photoshop. Didn't know the thing was $600. So I said, how to legally download Adobe Photoshop, because nothing was going to stop me. I was going to go all the way. Ended up getting all these viruses on my computer and all this stuff. But I was able to make the websites. I was not going to let anything stop me. And so a client came to me and said, Josh, the websites you build are phenomenal, but I've only paid you once. If you could figure out how to drive sales and traffic to my website, I could pay you every month. And at that point, I'm like, I could help my family out. I could help myself out. I'm like, this is great. I could make more money. Absolutely. A lot of times, this quick side note, I'm sure people maybe ask you guys all the time, like, what made you get into this? Or what made you do this? And obviously, I enjoyed doing what I was doing, but really it was to make money. To help my family out, to help myself out. It was to make money. And I feel like that's taboo sometimes to say, like, I started this business because I recognize an opportunity to make money. And it's make money easier and more scalably than I was doing before. That's all. And the rest kind of figures itself out, but I think that's okay. Is it okay to make money? Yeah. Okay, just making sure. You should have seen, I asked that question in front of I was at a class, and all the university professors and like staff were like eyeing me out, because here I am I'm like this capitalistic pig walking around stage in a university. Anyway, I'm going to fast track, if that's okay. I'm going to talk about, so I ended up graduating 2 years. So I graduated valedictorian from my high school. I kept that promise from my parents. So I graduated #1 out of 520 students. It was a very, very proud day for me to be able to give the speech from stage and see my mom crying and recognize that I was onto something, and that I had the full support now from my parents because I was keeping my grades up. I went to Arizona State University at the business school, studied computer information systems there because I realized I like computers, I like business, I could figure this out. I applied for the honors college, got into the honors college. I finished in 2 years. I came in with no credits. And I realized that, they gave me this major map and they said, you can take 12 credits a semester, that's what's required, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that they charged the same amount for 12 credits than they did for 22. So it was like, once you hit a limit, they didn't charge for that. And I'm like, where's the bill? And they're like, no, that's it. So I was like, done. I'll take 22 credits every semester. So I took summer school, 22 credits, boom, 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 while running my business. And so that business became a multi-million-dollar business from my dorm room. And I finished in just under 2 years, summa cum laude, top of my class from the honors college and the business school. So I took that business and realized that from web design, web development, to advertising, to marketing, I realized that if you know how to market and sell, that ultimately is the most powerful skill. And it doesn't matter the industry you're in. If you know how to communicate and sell, you will always be successful. So I realized, though, I did a search one day on Google, and I searched how to sell a service business, boom, 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 consulting, this and that. And I realized how hard and difficult it was to sell a service business, unless you're like an accounting firm or tax firm. The business was it was so about me that it was very hard for me to create brand value outside of myself. And so if I was to sell something, I'd be selling myself, and it would be very difficult for that. And I realized that I had to turn what I was doing into more of a platform, something that was a self-serve, that was a side for me that I could lend my brand equity to, but that I could sell. And so that's what I did. I turned that into a platform where people could upload their advertising dollars. We used it as the back end for a lot of the big PR companies and ad agencies. I was flying all over the country selling these deals. Nobody knew my age at all, and no one asked, thankfully, because I was huge and wore a full suit and deepened my voice on the phone so that no one would ever be suspicious of it. But here I was pitching against 60-year-old advertising veterans with teams, and I'm sitting there solo pitching. What I did is they would say, well, you look young. They would say, you look young. And I said, that's exactly what you want. I said, if you want someone to do your heart surgery, go to someone who has a ton of experience. If you want someone to do your digital marketing, go to someone who lives it, breathes it, eats it, sleeps it. And no one's going to do it better than I am. And I'm totally sure of that. And what's going to happen is if you go with someone else, you're going to realize 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, however long you signed the contract, that you made a mistake. And whether you hire me or not, let me at least help you hire the right person. And so leading with that value again. And so I ended up signing that business. I was 310 pounds when I sold that business. So I was about 110 pounds more than I'm about 195, 200 now. And I was working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I was driving, I went from taking the city bus, and I used to dream of having having a car. That was my first thing. I was like, I just want a car. I'm sick and tired of the city bus breaking down. I was always late to school, late to my practice because of it, and I was embarrassed to tell people why I was late because I was taking the city bus. So when I sold my company, I had my parents out. I've been helping my parents out along the way, of course, my sister, and I bought myself a convertible yellow Lamborghini and a red Ferrari, and why not, right? And another side story is this interesting? Is this okay? That I'm kind of mumbling on? Okay. So I bought these cars, and you're a young guy, and you think that I've got that red Ferrari. All the girls are gonna just run at me. I'm like, I'm gonna get mobbed in the streets. Oh my gosh, I should wear a bulletproof vest. I don't know. And 99.9% of the people that came up to me were guys, and. True story. Dude, that's sick. What's the horsepower on that thing? What's the gas mileage like? Rev it. And then kids and all that. Anyway, I've since realized that tip to gentlemen out there that are planning to buy an exotic car, if you're trying to attract women, Maserati's engine, for some reason, is just hypnotic. And Bentleys have just like that, for some reason, more of like a, I don't know, like a lion look. It's just a little bit more seductive. So those cars, guys never hit on me in those cars. And women don't either. I'm not saying women run after the cars. I'm just saying less. It still hasn't happened. It still hasn't happened. No. And by the way, when they come up, they're coming up to the car, not me. For a while, I was like, wow, they know me. Wow, they must know who I am. It's like, no, they're coming for the car. I could be Mr. Potato Head driving the car, and they would still come up to me. So I was 310 pounds, and I realized that I didn't want to do anything. So I took a 6-month hiatus, and I couldn't get out of bed some mornings. Like, I didn't want to get out of bed. And I realized that I had burnt out. I didn't know it at the time, but I realized I had burnt out. I had been working so hard, so long. Here I am, I have this success, but my health's in shambles. I've got money, I'm helping out my family. And then I realized I lost my purpose, because my purpose was creating value. And I couldn't find my next footing because I had all this money. I had these cars, I had all that. I said, but what do I do now? And I realized that I had burnt out and I was struggling to find my next step because I needed to create more value. And so that's what led me into focusing on building brands, not just building an income, not just building a lifestyle business, but building brands that gave me a great lifestyle. Lifestyle businesses are phenomenal. You can have $100 million lifestyle business. Lifestyle business simply means you get to live the lifestyle you want, which means you have more money, you get to do more of that. So I realized I want to build brands because I think that that's really the holy grail. If you can create a brand in any market, that's what people aspire to. That's what entrepreneurs aspire to do. That's what consumers trust. I want to create brands. And so I'm a big student of Dr. Robert Cialdini, who's read the book Influence or Persuasion. Okay, these books are really, really good. Influence particularly, it's a classic, sold probably 10 million copies. It talks about how to influence people to do anything, but in the business sense, to buy your products, to buy your services on a psychological level. So Dr. Robert Cialdini was at Arizona State University and is probably one of the first and foremost thought leaders and originators of a lot of these new age ideas of influence, particularly in the digital age. He has a new book called Persuasion, where it talks about the environment is selling on its own. So, the waiting room in the doctor's office, the way they set things up, there's a lot of subtle selling happening then. I know someone talked about invisible selling or visible closing. That element is very true, and Dr. Robert Cialdini is one of the originators of that. So now I'm going to get into the meat of it. The meat of it is, if you guys have seen the Nike recent fiasco and all that's been going on, this slide is actually outdated. There's actually, I think it's over 200 million of media exposure for doing that. So that was a bold bet that they made and they won so far. The stock price is higher than it's ever been before, 163 million in media exposure. And so that saying about all press is good press, if you're a brand, generally that's true. And it's tough to sell that to the team sometimes, because when you do controversial things, it's very risky, and it is. Try to avoid the controversial stuff, but getting eyeballs on you is huge. So if you're a consultant and you're helping grow businesses, doing things like, for example, I use a lot of hooks when I speak about. I don't focus on ROI, I focus on ROL, my rate of loss. And I realize that if I can lose money better than my competitors, I'll win the long-term game. And so that angle is so unique, because most people are talking about ROI, and I'm talking about how to lose money better. And so that's so confusing to people that it draws them in, right? So controversy can be applied to a lot of different levels in the way that you sell your business services, products. So here's influencer marketing. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, you've already been targeted. And if you see celebrities, people you follow posting about products that they use, 8 times out of 10, that's either paid for or influenced, or they got free product and hope that they would post about it. 8 times out of 10. And so we're at 2018, we're at 3 billion. It's going to be up to $10 billion in 2020, so in less than 2 years. So massive growth. And so what is influencer marketing? So marketing-induced consumer-to-consumer word of mouth generates twice the sales of paid advertising. That's from McKinsey. Customers acquire via word of mouth, have a 37% higher retention. I believe that for sure. 81% of marketers that tried influencer marketing report that it is an effective channel. Of course it is. Getting other people to tell their fans to buy your product. That's how it works. In the wild, we are wired to remember familiar faces because it's deadly to forget our enemies. If you recognize, back to evolutionary biology, some animals, they just know, dogs don't like cats. They just don't. No one taught them. They just don't. And so we're wired inside. I'm always trying to hijack what people are already wired. People are naturally greedy and selfish. How can I tap into that? People naturally want to be envied by the people around them. They want to be liked, and they want to be alike, even though we want to be different. So if you recognize the Kim Kardashian whole trend, if you go up to any woman and say, "Oh, you're trying to look like Kim Kardashian," she'd slap you. But maybe she liked the way that Kim Kardashian did her hair, and subconsciously that impacted the way that she does her hair because she liked that element. So we're constantly being influenced. And at the end of the day, I try to tap into that as much as I can. So you're buying time, you're buying brand equity. So when Nike does a deal with LeBron, they don't have to spend 20 years on the court practicing. They come in and they say, "You're a champion. We want all your brand equity. Lend it to our brand. How much you want?" And they recently signed a $1 billion deal with LeBron James just for lending his brand equity over to Nike. So, and you see what happened with Jordan. Nike's the best marketing company for this specific area, I think. But you even see it with Smartwater with Jennifer Aniston. And you see it with Louis Vuitton, and Louis Vuitton does a lot of that. So Smartwater, vitamin water, I'll show some other examples. LeBron James, Jay-Z with Samsung, that was a $100 million deal. After Chanel signed Nicole Kidman in 2003, it was reported that global sales increased by 30% for Chanel's perfume. 30%, okay, by signing Nicole Kidman. And so when Nike and Tiger Woods inked the endorsement deal, obviously we know what happened there, but their market share went from 0.9, so 1%, to 4% in 6 months. So talk about expediting, buying time, because we want to be like the people we follow, whether we admit it, know it, or not. We follow them for a reason. 92% of consumers trust online word-of-mouth recommendations, while only 33% of them trust online banner ads. So while everyone else is worrying on Facebook, trying to advertise on Facebook, trying to do all this stuff, we do that too. Facebook is just hiking up the prices, because here's the deal. Facebook has 1.7 billion people. They're probably not going to get many more people on their platform. So what happens when a public company has reached the market penetration of 90% or plus of their addressable market? They have to make more money from the people in the room, right? If that door's closed, we reach capacity of the room, and I've got to sell you hot dogs and donuts, I got to sell you more hot dogs and donuts because there's no one else coming in. That's what's happening with Facebook, and that's that happened with Google, it happened with Facebook. Costs will continue to rise. So what I'm giving you here is an opportunity for the cost of some free product or some free service to get people to recommend your product or service to as many as 10 of their friends. If they've got 10 followers, I'll talk to them, because those 10 people know them. And the smaller the amount of following, the more intimate they know those people. So oftentimes, the smaller free micro-influencers are a lot more impactful. So we send out hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of free product every month to the influencers that we target, hoping that they'll like our product and they'll naturally post about it. And oftentimes, we'll throw a kicker in there if we want to advertise, and we'll pay them. So this was never possible before. Back when cigarettes were healthy. Those good old days, Ronald Reagan. I'm sending Chesterfields to all my friends. That's the merriest Christmas any smoker can have. Chesterfield mildness plus no unpleasant aftertaste. Ronald Reagan, right? Even down to the signature being there, right? The red, I mean, just perfect. This is influencer marketing. Same thing, right? Same thing. It's very blatant. It's right in front of you. Now it happens much more subtly. It happens as you're scrolling through the slot machine that's now been put in your hand, and you're looking for rewards. But as you're treasure hunting, your brain is consuming the content, even when you're scrolling. So you're scrolling, and all of a sudden you see people using my product. Oh my gosh, I didn't know my cousin used that. Oh my gosh, Kim Kardashian uses it. Oh my gosh, Tiger Woods uses it. Oh, why am I not using it? And all of a sudden, you see it in the mall, and you say, I saw this somewhere, right? I've been planting that seed. You don't harvest a crop the day you plant the seed. And that's really important because the reason why we've been able to win and we continue to win against our competitors is, one, I believe very strongly that it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And in this new economy, in this new world, you have the ability to move very quickly for very little money. So back to this point, you have, tell us, Elizetxe, what is your beauty secret? Oh, it's Lux toilet soap. Ah, that's it. I don't have that in my restroom. I have 100 other things, but that's it, right? It's like the skincare regimes now. There's a Korean 14-step skincare process. Right? I'm like, 14 steps? I barely put lotion on in the day. Like, I barely brush my teeth once a day, and I'm happy for that. I got a 14-step beauty routine twice a day. I got a pre-tone, after-tone, moisturize, SPF, anti-wrinkle, crow's feet eyes, boom, boom. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got my hair. Then there's a 12-step hair process. What is that? That's simply companies creating a reason for us to buy more of their products. That's all it is, right? So it's like, listen, if you're a consulting company, you say, listen, we first have to do a market research report before we can dive into the details. That's going to be $5,000 for us to really understand before we waste time and valuable dollars doing something that wouldn't work. Oh, wow, okay. And then midway, we like to do another report, and it really dives into your competitors. So midway through the campaign, we're going to allocate some of the budget to that. Otherwise, we may risk losing money in the future. So all of a sudden, you're injecting these different steps. But this has been around for a long time. Why does it work? Simply, monkey see, monkey do. I mean, I could sit up here for 5 hours and talk about this stuff. At the end of the day, we want to be alike others. We want to be alike our friends. We don't want to. We hate FOMO, fear of missing out, and we feel like we're missing out if we see everyone around us using it except us. They know something we don't know, right? Instagram like rate. I brought this up because people will come to me and say, well, Josh, you've got Floyd Mayweather and all these Chris Pratt and all these big celebrities using your products. I could never do that. I said, actually, first of all, we lose money on every single celebrity deal we do. Like if you looked at a direct ROI, we're never looking at direct ROI. If we spend $50,000 on one post, just one post, takes them 5 seconds, snap, they post it, 50 grand goes out of my bank account to them. I'm lucky to make 5 to 10,000 back. I'm lucky. It's a great day. I celebrate, pop champagne, it's great. But what I'm making is brand equity. That spillover effect, I don't get paid now, I get paid at the end, right? And so the Instagram like rate, though, for the micro-influencers is double than the bigger ones, which means there are a lot more intimate connections. And if you're doing B2B or you're doing high-end products, you really don't need a ton of customers. See, many of our brands are in the business to consumer. I need to sell a lot of protein powder, and I have to sell it every month to millions of customers. So I need to drown it. The way I think about it is you've got a lake in front of you, and it starts to sprinkle. And every drop kind of makes its own ripple. And when I get a post from an influencer, their drop, the size of their drop is based on their influence. But what happens is when I start to thunderstorm the lake, lots of tiny drops create the same ripple effect of one huge drop. Except they tend to create an overlapping effect. So if I just go out and I get Jennifer Aniston, that's great. Jessica Alba with The Honest Company, fantastic. You will have a big drop in the ocean. But I like to go after thousands of drops in the ocean because they happen at different times. She's only going to post once. Jennifer Aniston posts once, boom, sales spike. Hopefully they carry over a while. Then it's my job to use that asset, the content, the connection, the relevance over time. But if I have thousands of tiny drops hitting the lake, hitting the ocean, over time, I create a ripple effect that creates my own network effect inside of my market. Because all of a sudden, today you see, for example, we've got Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels. You guys know about ClickFunnels. Russell Brunson uses our product. And so he posts about it. And so now marketers are seeing that, like, oh my gosh, like, isn't that Josh's company? Like, I saw so-and-so and so-and-so celebrities using it, but now Russell Brunson's using it? So now all of a sudden it starts to infiltrate their bedroom, right? So they see it outside, and then all of a sudden, what did the cat drag in? And it's right in front of you now, and now you're like, okay, I have to buy it, right? So I'm building up, and then when you least expect it, one of those drops will touch you over a while, right? So that's why I talk about here in the conversion of it. Traditional marketing, you have a message, just do it, and you throw it out to 1 million people, and hopefully 1% of them become purchasers. That's traditional marketing, outward. Micro-influence marketing is the customer, just me. I bought some lotion that I really like. I post about it in my own way on a very native, very natural. I love this lotion, so good. I love this drink, Starbucks. I love this unicorn drink. If you notice, brands are creating stuff that's Instagrammable. All the colors. If you ever been to Lush, that's like Costco. You go in there and you leave. I didn't even know the prices of some of that stuff. I was leaving and I bought like 5 things, like $300. I was like, I like the environment. I love saving the earth and all, but I just spent $300 on 2 bars of soap. But anyway, it was more than that. And they're great, by the way. I went back to return some of their toothpaste. I just didn't like it. It was really gritty. And the manager goes, oh, what's wrong? It's really nice. And she goes, oh, well, before you leave, I want you to try our mouthwash. It's got a different consistency. I think you're going to like it, because I didn't like the toothpaste myself either. And I said, wow, whoever's training you guys, there's a reason why you guys are growing so quickly. That was good. I tried to poach her, but she liked working there. I did. I'm always hunting for good talent. Anyway, this is the new way of marketing. Why does it work? It helps build your moat in your market, because if you're selling a commodity, it's like, why am I going to hire you or buy your thing when I could buy 100 of the same? Because Kim Kardashian uses it. Oh, okay, cool. Commodities are actually the best. So makeup, for example, there's 100 different blushes you could buy from 1,000 different brands. Why am I going to buy this one? Because Nicole Kidman uses it, and I loved her rosy cheeks on that show. Whatever it is, right? You make that connection, and she's curated like Costco's curated products for you. Your influencers, the people you follow, are your mini Costco's, and you get placed inside of the mindset. So the other reason why it works is if you think of someone, Nicole Kidman, whatever you think of her, she's professional, she's rich, so what she buys must be the best. And she's like, she's healthy, she's fit. I rob those attributes onto my product. And now all of a sudden my product is high quality. It's healthy. It's the best because Nicole Kidman uses it. I'm borrowing those attributes, right? I did a similar presentation like this for celebrities, for influencers, talking on both sides of the fence, right? The other side of the fence is be very careful with the brands you associate with, because you're diluting your power over time. So if you start lending yourself to everyone and anyone who wants to write you a check, you're going to dilute your power, and you're going to become someone who just pitches products. Be very, very selective with what you're pitching. For example, Matthew McConaughey with the Lincoln, great placement, but it's hard to believe that, of someone worth $100 million, that's their favorite car and that's everything to them. It's kind of hard to believe that, but it's so influential, it still works. That's why they run it. It still works, right? Even when we know, it's like, what? Doesn't make sense. It Cosmetics, you can see their Instagram follower growth. It Cosmetics was acquired by the L'Oreal Group, I think, for over $1 billion. Becca Cosmetics acquired by the Estee Lauder companies. They're simply figuring out, these are on the big scale, but on a micro level scale, it actually works better the smaller you do it, because you can surround your market. So if you only do services in Phoenix, Arizona, or Las Vegas, Nevada, and you get everyone around Las Vegas posting about your product, it creates this massive, remember the drops of water, it creates this massive ripple effect in a very hot spot of an area. So I say that because here's some examples. So one of our products called Snow. Snow is an oral care brand with a patented system to help whiten teeth. We've got toothpaste, mouthwash, all this going out. So we did a deal with Miss Universe, and we found that it was a really interesting placement for us, because you think about pageantry and leading up to winning Miss Universe. And so we wanted to implant into her followers' minds that this was one of the hacks she used to become Miss Universe. So even you could become Miss Universe with Snow, right? It's like that, even you can do it. This is what she uses. It's behind the scenes. It's more candid. She's not on stage. So then the second element of this, and this is really what very few people understand, and it's probably been the biggest multiplier effect in our business. We then take that content and market it to Miss Universe page that has 8.5 million likes on it. So all of a sudden, people recognize, that's Miss Universe. What does she have in her mouth? Right? Instagrammable. Oh, wait, what is that? Snow? Oh my gosh. They're making the association. Now I'm getting clicks for pennies on the dollar because it's relevant to Miss Universe's audience. That's something that I don't tell the other side of the fence, because then they know that it's worth more, and that the agents and managers, this Hollywood stuff is crazy. Then they try to charge me more money because they see the value behind the scenes. But I'm paying my ad dollars to spread the content out. And as long as it's a good brand match, Miss Universe also benefits, because millions of people are now seeing her that normally don't see her with our ad dollars. So it actually is a win-win. We pay for 100% of that. You could do it on a micro scale. You get a local anchor at your CBS news station. She's probably got 20,000 followers on Instagram. Send her free product. Send her free service, right? Utilizing that same thing over and over, it applies at every level. And here's a deal we did with Floyd Mayweather on the male side. So Floyd Mayweather has a very male-dominant following. Men don't typically whiten their teeth because they feel that it's maybe feminine. They're like, why do I need to do this? But if you think about it, Floyd Mayweather uses a mouthpiece to fight, and he's the best fighter in the world. So when he's not fighting in the ring, he's whitening his teeth with the same mouthpiece. It's like, this one has patented technology, proprietary serum, whitens your teeth better than anything else without sensitivity, ships to 180 countries. That's the angle we took. It's the best ever. So his post, if you go to his Instagram, you'll see it. He says, this is the best teeth whitening system money can buy. Money Mayweather, right? I have all the money in the world. I'm rich. I'm Forbes. He made $285 million last year on Forbes list. #1 highest paid celebrity in the world. He reached out to us because Conor McGregor was promoting a similar product from Australia, and he said, I want to find the best, and I want to prove to Conor that not only can I beat you in the ring, I can beat you outside the ring. So it was perfect. It was perfect. So we've got the best ever line with Floyd coming out. 14 karat gold mouthpiece, $350, limited edition to his audience, right? So now he's sending traffic to his line, and so we're integrating a lot more when we find the match on the male side. We did ads towards female. Does not work with Floyd. Women don't connect for some reason. Many reasons. There's 100 reasons. I won't even go into that. But we've got a female and a male version of that, right? Here's an example of Loki, which is a dog that is an influencer that gets paid, I'm assuming, tens of thousands of dollars by Toyota to create these advertisements. So obviously the photography is really well done, but it's integrated in Loki's style. So there's the Toyota in the background. And what is that conveying? That's conveying comfort. That's conveying I can travel the world. If I have a Toyota, I can go anywhere. And I can set up shop. I don't even need a hotel. I can camp in the middle of nowhere with this Toyota. I want that lifestyle. And you can see there are 130,000 likes. Very successful campaign with a dog, right? So here's a good one. So this is Lester Green, Beetlejuice from Howard Stern. Hilarious guy, has done different films. Anyway, we spent 6 months trying to do a deal with this guy because I had the theory that even though he has no teeth, that he's known for having no teeth. He's lost his teeth over the years. Teeth top of mind for his audience. I sell products for your teeth. So this is an example of a very successful campaign, 36,000 likes, where we were able to hijack the mindset of people. They think he's funny, so that's great. That's a positive feeling. He's funny. He makes me laugh, positive. And he has no teeth. Top of mind, teeth. Obviously, it's a joke before and after. It's implied. He's hilarious, so it's funny. And that now carries over, and now people are interested. I got the eyeballs. So I got so many emails and messages when this post went out, and it got picked up by so many other pages because it was so unique. And he had never done a promotion or anything like that in his career, really, at all, and still hasn't. We're the only promotion he's done because they like the product, they enjoy the product. A lot of times I like to get on the phone with them and sell them on why we are the best and prove it to them. Here's the product, try it. Only if you like it, post about it. That's what I tell them, right? Here's some more examples. A billion-dollar newer brand called Body Armor. It's a super drink. They've got Kobe Bryant on that. He's turned his $6 million investment into a $200 million investment in less than 2 years. He's going to make more money in that deal in a couple years than he did 20 years playing on the court because he built a brand, and now he's lending that brand. He's not liquidating, that's a bad way of putting it, but he's monetizing that brand now. Beats by Dre, very obvious there. The story behind that is that he was walking in Malibu on the beach, and Jimmy Iovine calls him up, and they're talking in the living room. And Dr. Dre says, yeah, Nike hit me up. They want to do a shoe deal, but I think it was Nike or it was another, whatever brand, and Adidas. And he's like, but I wear the same shoes all the time. I wear Nike Air Force Ones 365 days of the year. I just buy new ones. I wear the same shoes all the time, and everybody knows that. So if I do a shoe deal, it's going to be inauthentic. So Jimmy's a genius brander. He just got it. He says, no. So you don't do the shoe deal. You're known for being a producer and producing quality music. You need to have headphones. And what's missing in the market are headphones that give off enough bass for hip hop. And you're the hip hop producer, and they trust you. And so that became a $3 billion exit in a very short amount of time, now owned by Apple. Casamigos recently acquired, George Clooney lending his likeness, being who he is, having a fine taste in tequila, but still a playful, attractive brand. Took advantage of, Patron's obviously very successful, but took advantage of a segment in there, and they recently had a $1 billion exit as well in record time. Then we've got Huda Beauty. She's purely from Instagram. She's not a quote-unquote traditional celebrity. Just by doing tutorials on beauty and makeup, comes out with a line of makeup so that people can do makeup like her at home. And very successful, worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in record time, 2 or 3 years. Vitamin Water, we know that deal with 50 Cent, multi-billion-dollar acquisition. Utilizing star power to drive value. So this is at the higher level, but this shows you what you can scale to. But because of Instagram and Facebook, we now have the opportunity at any budget to do it for dollars or for free, literally by sending out product. Because here's what happened. You wanted to do a deal with Ronald Reagan. You've got to meet with his lawyers. You've got to pay him millions of dollars. You got to then not just pay him millions of dollars. You got to then go and pay millions of dollars to the TV commercials and radio ads and all this stuff. It was you couldn't reach it as a small brand. Now everybody has their own channel on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and it's intimate. And now you have the ability to broadcast your message at a micro level for pennies on the dollar and oftentimes free. The majority of our posts are still free because we simply send out product to people who hopefully like it. If they like it and they meet our demographic, they'll post about it. And we have 60, 70% post rate just by giving free product out and hoping they like it. And that they'll naturally post, and it costs us $0 other than the cost of goods and shipping, which we write off at the end of the year anyway. So you can start this immediately. Last examples, and then I'll show you the tools on how to actually start doing this today. Oprah recently launched a pizza line. She did the deal with Weight Watchers, took her money out of that deal. I think she's completely divested, or at least a majority divested from that deal. She now has a pizza line. She partnered up with Kraft in this deal. So Kraft Heinz understands the power of the Oprah effect, right? So now she's got this pizza line that just came out. So what are the examples? So there's lots of different types. Really quickly, brand empires or Oprah, right? That's a brand. She has an empire around her brand. Licensing the name, George Foreman Grills, right? So thinking of who is that ideal celebrity in your exact market, and how could you get them in on the deal? How could you give up equity, give up a licensing royalty deal? You say, look, I'm going to give you 10% of the brand because you're going to help me build this brand value when we sell it. Also, they'll attract their other celebrity friends. So in our Snow brand, we have multiple celebrities who own equity in the business. And not only can we say we're a celebrity-owned business, because we are, that moves mountains when I call people and say, oh, we're a celebrity-owned brand, We got celebrities already on it. They're like, oh, I want to be a part of that crew. They're already doing it. So you have to be a little bit generous in the very beginning to be willing to give away equity, give royalties, figure that out, and you have to sell them on the vision that you're going to be successful and that you're going to maintain their brand integrity in that partnership. So that's a licensing deal. Brand ambassadors, that's just grabbing someone like Tiger Woods or Beyonce for Pepsi. Celebrity branded products, we talked about Beats by Dre. That's Beats by Dre, right? So it's in the name itself. And I'm not opposed to that. That's why we're doing the best ever line by Floyd for men with the 14 karat gold and all of that. I don't care. I don't want my name to be known in the short term. I want it to be known in the long term. I want sales revenue, and I want to hijack that mindset. And over time, I won't have to do brand deals because Nike could do no more brand deals ever again. None. And they'd probably still make $50 billion a year like they make now because they've already earned that from their celebrity. Go through these really quickly. Brand collaboration, that's Rihanna working with MAC Cosmetics. So MAC comes out with a lipstick with Rihanna, so you can do that in your business. You come out with a product or a flavor or a service or something that is tied around your local celebrity or an influencer. Assuming a company title, so Jay-Z will be the co-brand director of Budweiser Select, which really means not much. Probably doesn't do much, but they're able to say Jay-Z's on our team, he's leading our branding efforts. Endorsing products is the easiest. That's what we're talking about now. It's just Kim Kardashian posting, I love these shoes, and tags your brand on it. That's it. Simple, easy to do. You could probably have your first post live by tomorrow for anything you do, whether it's service, product, doesn't matter. It's actually better if you're a service or B2B because people don't think this works on there, but it works 50 times better. So you can work with Lewis Howes or work with whoever, Russell, anyone, and figure out a deal that makes sense to have them recommend your product or service. And very few brands are doing this in the B2B and service world. It's mostly in the B2C. It's very, very competitive, but the market's so big and growing that it's really not. But on the B2B side, it's even more of a blue ocean. Lending celebrity voices, that's using Kevin Hart for Waze app for GPS, using his voice. Morgan Freeman, one of the most famous voiceovers, he gets paid millions of dollars to be a voiceover for XYZ. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And then promoting charitable causes. That's something to think about in your business. Think about how you can incorporate charity into what you do. So we donate X amount of our profit to charity. Target the charity to the celebrity you're going after and say, hey, we want to work together because we work on the same causes. And what I'd like to do is donate the royalties perpetually to your foundation if we do a collab together, right? So now you have a different angle to go in because sometimes these people have a lot of money. It's hard to tell someone who's got $200 million and you're like waving $5,000 at them. They're not going to do it. But if you talk about the charity aspect of it and you give them a little bit of money or whatever that is, they're more willing to do a deal. So master tips. Again, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Legalities, the FTC is being very careful on this. If you're paying someone, you have to use the hashtag ad, or you could say things like, I partnered up with XYZ company to tell you guys about the new line. You have to disclose that it was paid, and they're kind of cracking down on that more and more. And then you can amplify it through Facebook ads to their audience, or even to your own customers. You can do integrations where it's like, this is the product line with Rihanna. So Louis Vuitton teamed up with Rihanna, or Sephora, I guess, they're the same company. Sephora teamed up with Rihanna to create Fenty Beauty, a makeup line for women of color. And so that's a brand integration there. Talking about the rate of loss, recognizing that you're going to have to give out product or service or hours in exchange for them lending their influence. It's worthwhile doing that. And if you can get it for product like we do, anyone can do that. Doesn't matter your product. That's the best way to do it. And then stay legal, we talked about that. So some of the tools. So there's a lot of fraud starting to come up where people are buying fake followers and then trying to charge you money to post on their page, but they really just have a bunch of fake followers. I use a tool, this is the best one that I found, called Hype Auditor. And it'll tell you where the demography of their followers, what country are they from, are they real people? These are estimates, but they're pretty good. What's their core audience? Male, 76%. They reach their followers good, their quality's average. This at least gives you a gauge into what was previously a dark world, and now you can see very quickly if this person is legit, whether they have 1 follower or 1 million followers. This will tell you, give you a good gauge. It also helps you target your message. So if you see that most of their audience is in Canada, you might want to make sure they put in their post that they service Canada too. Or like, now servicing Canada, right? You can make an announcement about it. It's exciting. So excited for AWOL to be coming to Canada, right? That's how I would incorporate that message. Some more tools of the trade. There's a new one called Clout HQ. It's very hard to read there, but clouthq.com. They have a Chrome extension that allows you to quickly analyze the, how real the followers are, what the engagement rate is. It's kind of a quicker tool of the other one, except they have a directory. So you can literally go in and type in software, and it'll show you all the influencers that talk about software. And it has right there their Gmail account. So you just open an email, copy paste the same script over and over and over again, which is something like, hey, so-and-so, I'm a huge fan. I run a company called Blank that sells blank. I see how we overlap because of this, and I think it's a huge value to your followers. Would it be okay if I sent you $300 of free product, and if you liked it, maybe you'd post about it? Or maybe you don't even apply the post. You say, could I send you $300 of free product? It'd be an honor for me to send it out to you, for you to try it. And oftentimes you don't have to say directly. You can just follow up later and say, hey, did you receive the product? Is everything okay? And then oftentimes after that, if it's worthwhile, you could say, hey, would you be interested in posting about it since you like it? What's your PayPal? I'll send you $100. Or how much would it cost for you to share with the audience? Or could I make you an affiliate and give you a coupon code? And for every sale you drive, boom, 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 right? So there's 100 ways to split the deal there. Mighty Scout is a newer one as well. You can pop in any celebrity or anyone, really, with as little as one follower. It'll tell you their engagement rate. So you want the engagement rate to be 3% and up, ideally, because that tells you that people are actually engaging with the content, and it's not just going into the abyss. Floyd's deal is that because there's exceptions with celebrity, because you can reuse them on lots of platforms and everybody recognizes them. So there are certain things like that. But if you're doing anyone with under 100,000 followers, ideally they should have 3% or more of engagement rate. I don't know why I put randomly retargeting there with exclamation, but sure, retargeting, that's important. Not sure why that's there, but it is important. This is an application called FlipMass, and this is by invite only. And you just tell them I sent you, or fill out their form. It's an iPhone app that you can go in right now and by tonight have 5 different pages post about your product. Here's an example, $80 for a 12-hour post. I like this platform too because it makes it very clear. It's like, I'm paying you. You're going to say this exactly. So you write exactly what they're going to say. Here's the image you're going to use. And if you don't post, you don't get paid. If you post, you get paid. Like, it's just straightforward. You don't have to, it's not awkward. The only thing is these pages are not actual people. They're more themed pages. So you'll see Singers has 6.9 million, Random Videos has 5 million, and there's hundreds of these pages. Viral Dentist has 296,000 followers. That's something that I would run a test on, right? And so I'd put something up there and say, finally a way to whiten teeth without the sensitivity, and you could do it at home. That's awesome. And then put a picture of the product, and then maybe tag our Instagram page or our website on there. And I can do that for $80 for a 12-hour post, or $200, and they'll leave it permanently on their feed. What I found is that there's diminishing returns after 12 to 24 hours. Once everyone's seen it and their followers, they rarely go back and scroll the feed looking for stuff. So I would probably do, if I was doing this deal, I'd probably do the $100 for 24 hours is probably what I would do. And then you can see on the other side, they do Stories, Snapchat, Facebook. All the platforms are on here, so that's a great platform as well. If anyone's in e-commerce and uses a platform called Shopify, Shopify has an app called User Gems. And I love this app because you can, it'll pour through your customer list, and it'll find their Facebook, their Instagram, all their profiles, and it'll tell you who's already buying your product. They already bought it, and they have 5,000 followers on Instagram. So it's so easy to pick up the phone and call them and say, hi, hi Eva, it's just noticed I wanted to give you a call and see how it's going with the system. Did you have any questions that I could help you over the phone? Oh, no, everything's going really well. Oh, well, that's fantastic. Well, I want to let you know we do have a referral program. We pay $25 for every sale. I don't know if you're on Instagram or Facebook. I know she is. They say, oh yes, rule number 1 in sales, never ask a question you know the answer to. So I don't know if you're on Instagram. Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram. Wow, I mean, how many followers do you have? Oh, I have 5,000. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Well, someone with 1,000 followers is making $500 a month passively, just by sharing the coupon code on their link. Is that something you're interested in? right? And so now I'm talking on the phone. They're already sold. They're already bought in. So Use Your Gems is really good to be able to do that for Shopify. I guess that's it. So that's all I have. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.